And in a new development, the Zamfara State Governor, Bello Matawalle, has left the People's Democratic Party, PDP, for the ruling All Progressives Congress. Well, the governor is yet to confirm his defection officially, but as seen in a letter from the governor of Yobe State, Mai Malabuni, as well as in a Facebook post by an aide to President Muhammadu Buhari on digital and new media, Bashir Ahmed. Well, in the post, Ahmed says, "So Zamfara is back home. Welcome, Matawalle."
Let's turn to Arise analyst, Associate Professor of Law, Sam Amadi. Very warm welcome. Intrigues and dramas. I mean, with election season again, and the three parties, they've really played the trump card. Two candidates emerging for the primaries. A hell of a job for INEC. The courts are going to be busy again.
I mean, somebody says the lawyers are back with a briefcase, but we know Anambra is always going to give us a handful. Either somebody didn't win the election, he gets into the list, or somebody goes to court. But interestingly, the two candidates have emerged from at least the ABGA APC, ABGA PPDP, provides technocrats who are well seasoned and respected. Soludo and of course Valentine Oziwo. One can also speak of Andy as somebody who has pedigree as former senator, so put it that way. But primarily the issue is that Anambra is at a crossroad now. Anambra has everything it takes to be a leading industrial city in the world or state. For example, as far back as 2003, Professor Lester Toro of MIT wrote his book, Fortune Favors the Brave, that Newi could be the hub of Africa's takeoff economically. You see, if you look at the capital in NBC survey,
the Asian tigers here in the south.
So Singapore, so to talk about Singapore, Taiwan, Dubai, symbolism. Anambra has huge financial capital accumulation. So the first generation theory of economic development says you must be able to have capital accumulation. They have it. So you have human capital, technology, everything. What they are lacking is institutions. The third generation of development theory. Douglas North. So leadership, institution, and that's what has failed them. And the question now is, will Anambra be able to create that moment when leaders who have the pedigree can come and leverage on these resources and make Anambra, which is what Nigeria is looking for, to states that could, pilot away from this failure and create wealth, industrialize, and so others can borrow. So we are really looking at Anambra as like Nigeria, great potential, great capability, resources.
But not really moving forward.
Because somehow the social capital, mercantilism, all kinds of, so everybody, so much more people are focusing on money, votes are being bought. We've seen Anambra as a place where people are ready to buy the votes. And the implications that...
I learned one of the candidates gave as much as $150,000 and those who collected it went into thin air with the money.
Maybe that's what we have too many billionaires struggling for political power. In other places, billionaires are there creating wealth and not caring about political power, allowing technocrats and people who are policy-oriented to drive business-friendly policies, and they cash in on it for more wealth. But here, billionaires in Anambra and some part of Nigeria focus on acquiring political power. So that creates the level of competition, lack of elite consensus. So the fear running down to the election could be that we'll get back to Anambra where there will be too many warlords with war chest fighting. And whoever emerges after November 6th and after Supreme Court, now we wait until Supreme Court speaks. So when Supreme Court, the fat lady, speaks finally, then the question is, will that person have enough legitimacy to bring everybody together and solve infrastructure problems? Anambra used to be very safe in terms of security. You need to now think about how to use technology, optimize the volunteer system around that area. Look at somewhere like Onitsha. You need to make it back to become an emporium, commercial emporium for Africa. In the days past, in 1966, people come from Senegal, from Guinea, to trade, to buy from Onitsha. Can you create the level of infrastructure support and security that enables Onitsha to reach out again, look at the manufacturer? Anambra could become the logistics center of West Africa.
It takes to actually get this done.
So the proper issue is leadership, and that goes to issue both of institutions, social capital, behavior, value system. We've seen a deterioration of values. We've seen some level of excess individualism and mercantilism. So the question for Anambra people is, look, can we get this kind of, so Soludo, Valentine, and others who may come on the way, smaller parties, present a hope that maybe.
But it looks like we're almost gearing towards the situation we saw after the 2019 election, where the courts really had a lot of roles to play in terms of deciding who eventually emerged winner. Looking at what is going on in the parties in Anambra, so let's not forget there's Ifan Yuba of YPP. He's there as well. Yeah. He's also emerged
and
as
he's cool because he has no
He's a one-man party, so
exactly.
there was no contestation.
Let's look at what happened in Imo State and the fact that with all of this division in the parties, especially the major players, and its impact on that all-important November 6th election.
I think the first thing that happened that the Chief Justice should issue a general directive. Courts should be the restraint from interfering. You see, we expect that courts should right wrong, but they shouldn't repeat the Imo fiasco of counting votes, of pronouncing people winner. At most cases, they can void the process and ask INEC to supervise a repeat if that process is bad. But we don't want to see a case where somebody comes from nowhere and the court says he ought to be the governor, we therefore declare him governor. I mean, for what we've seen so far, the court should be restrained in interfering. We should allow political process play out. That's what it's called politics. And in the theory of constitutional law, courts defer, it's deference, they defer to political branch to solve their problem. It's only when those problems involve legal issues, it's settled it, but don't go far to vote. You know, I argue that, look, in Nigeria, INEC votes, they decide primary parties vote, then before electors votes. After the Supreme Court now finally votes. So it's like Supreme Court casts their vote, and that's not what you expect from jurisprudence of election. So I think lawyers need to learn jurisprudence of elections again, which is that the courts are there to ensure that the people's expression is not vitiated, and not to substitute people's choice for the choice of 3 men in the Court of Appeal and perhaps 7 or 8 or 9 men and women at the Supreme Court. That's not what constitutional democracy requires. They should allow people to vote. So Anambra is building up again. PDP, primary, so many others, up to more than 3. ABGA, people have gone to court. INEC is saying X and other INEC saying Y. YPP, nobody. But at the end of the day, are we going to have a process where the people make the choice, and post the choice, the leaders can now come together and optimize this great, I realize the dream of Lester Toro, that we could be what takes Africa
The lack
off.
of internal party democracy in these political parties and robbing the people, not just Anambra State, but Nigerians in general, to actually have the right choice, you know, when they go out there to cast their ballot. The impact of this on our governance in the country.
It's terrible, and that's why our democracy is transactional and too elitist. We know that everywhere in the world, democracy will never be of the people totally, but essentially, you have to design your party process in a way that party membership counts. People know the process for electing. Look at, for example, in PDP, you move from 1,000-something delegates to what they call super delegates. Now, the concept of super delegate, even in the US, is small proportion of the total delegate number. So, if 120-something people, 150 people elected a governorship as candidate, yes, it might be legally viable and clear, but it's democratically questionable whether that number is enough to make that choice. So it's really too elitist and too transactional. It creates room for manipulation. So I think we should be bothered about the parties and their primaries, and maybe they will force the courts. That's what happened. The court has moved forward to say, look, you have to follow your rules. So the court will go back and say, did you follow your rules? And were these rules made before the primaries, or were they made just as in anticipation of that particular primary?
Interesting, but of course I do know that November 6th will be very, very interesting for
quite an
people
interesting, you know, in
yeah.
Anambra State that we're going to be having and the rest. But let's see the judicial fireworks first.
They'll come pretty soon. You can be sure.
I'm sure you'll be getting some briefs too.
well, let's hope.
And of course, Governor Bello Matawalle.
Yeah, quickly, yes. We're seeing the, you know, carpet crossing and the rest from one party to the. Well, there's only one party now where they say so far that people are safe. You know, your sins can be forgiven and the rest.
Well, essentially,
so are you surprised?
Not really surprised. They'll be beautiful. People have been alleging it, but again, this is a governor that won by grace of some error by the APC. So arguably can argue that he sees APC as still strong in Zamfara. He probably wants to secure himself. But again, we're going to see movement out of PDP to APC and APC to PDP. So what's going to happen in 2023 is that the parties will crumble. So which party is able to put themselves together? The pressure of convention has not yet come. We're building to convention, which is the hammer that breaks everything. So if APC goes to convention, a faction will fall away. If PDP goes to convention, a faction will fall away. So there'll be regrouping. Don't be surprised to see a chunk of PDP in APC and a chunk of APC today in PDP.
Particularly with the APC now being governed by like a sole administrator, which is not known to the constitution of the APC.
The tendencies in those parties that want to muzzle off some people from the presidency, we mean that there will be some regrouping. The question there is which party will have the resources, the human capital, the strategy to come on top. It'll be an interesting time. These parties basically are contraptions, and therefore they respond to the contingencies of politics. If the movements move and
not politics for development, but politics for self-aggrandizement.
Politics for power. I mean, the irony is that when you play politics to capture power, by the time you capture power, that process
you don't know what to do with the
disarrays you, derodes the capacity to govern. I don't know what to say in Nigeria. You win power, you can't govern because the coalition you put together to win is mismatched. It's a coalition that undermines the coherence of policy making. We saw with APC. APC put up a coalition. Now, APC government today is basically CPC. The other part is somewhat submerged, maybe forsaken, abandoned. They will probably move away again and get together with another party. If they win, then they have the same incoherence. So the crisis of politics and elections in Nigeria do not help democracy because the basic coherence in it in policy, in coalitions, ideological or strategic or policy orientation is missing. So it's like basically fight over getting power. And when we get power, what do? We don't know because the people who got power are not people who are aligned in policy. There are people who have planned to govern.
Just came together
they planned
for a
to win
particular
power.
interest.
And so if you're lucky, they happen to govern well. It's a happenstance. It's not really, doesn't flow from
with the extension
process.
of the tenure of the May Malabuni committee, caretaker committee, there are still fears. Before they already had that controversy, but with the announcement of this congresses at the local and state level, and not even a convention, it sort of extends their tenure, and not even an announcement of that convention. Some worry more than ever about the post-Buhari APC.
The point is that they are micromanaging and managing carefully. Everybody, what matters is the outcome they want, not the process. So you look at outcome, you open it up small. When they want, they announce. By the way, the APC has never consulted its BOT. They have not met one day. So the whole party structure is actually, once people govern, that's the point. But how do we get to finishing line? You move not in a principal manner, but in strategic manner to serve your own ultimate end.
Very warm appreciation, Associate Professor Sam Amadi, ARISE News Analyst, for coming to dissect these unfolding political issues.